Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and I know you are too because you're watching content like this. And the name of this channel is Manifesting Magic the Practical Way, because I do believe in some practicalities when it comes to manifesting the life we choose. I don't have a really big thing to say today. I was just talking to my daughters, dropping them off. That's one of my favorite times of the day, when I'm driving them to school. And sometimes they're happy to go, sometimes they have an attitude, sometimes it's like, oh, the world is coming to an end, why do I have to go do this, my life is so horrible. You know how kids can be. But nonetheless, some adults are like that too. And we have a pretty long commute when I have to bring them, but I enjoy the time so much in the morning that I really just don't mind it, driving them as much as I thought I would, because if anybody has kids, you know that they bring life, right? They add a certain specialness about life into the mix, especially when your daily life is organized around their needs and what they have to do. I think when that goes away, you really have to wonder, what do I do? Because I'm so accustomed to having my life driven by other little people. So nonetheless, I want to talk today about elevation, ascension, I'll call it, right? Elevation, ascension. When you are working towards a goal, and when you are trying to create something very specific in your life, or you are trying to see things unfold in a way that you can't necessarily create on your own, because, well, it takes too many moving parts and too many puzzle pieces to actually bring that thing to fruition. So there's a thing that it's a non-tangible feeling. It's a feeling of elevation that happens, and it kind of consumes you and it comes over you, right? Ascension and elevation. It's kind of like everything that you're doing and everything that you're walking into, you feel a sense of high level growth that's coming through you in order to be a part of the new environments, in order to work on the projects with the new team members, in order to connect and collaborate with others in a way that everybody feels a part of it, and everybody feels like a part of the team, and nobody is worried about who gets the most credit for this or that or anything, right? When ascension or elevation is happening, there's a certain level of deep generosity that pours over you. The deep generosity comes from the idea that you know that the resources that you have and the things that you have access to are not a finite case, right? And then almost immediately when you're thinking that, an opportunity will show up where it's a clear sign. It's like, dang, this is some abundance right here. This was not even something that I was focused on or even wanting, right? It wasn't even something that I was trying to make happen, but it's so easy that you're just like, wow, this is some major abundance right here. And so it just puts you in the mind of you're knowing, a deep, deep knowing that you are not the only aspect of what creates the abundance in your life, right? And so and I kind of talked about this the other day a little bit when I mentioned something about living a non-conventional lifestyle. So when you do have a lifestyle that kind of goes into that direction, you do get in a mode of understanding very clearly that nothing really belongs to you. You don't really own anything that you have, that it can all be taken away at any given time, or it can all be pulled out of your life and out of your space, and that but regaining those things is super easy because you've done it over and over again, right? So there's a certain level of high level generosity that's inside of you that is not something that you can just get rid of. It's something that you understand as a major aspect of your growth and a major aspect of your abundance. I think that when you are ascending, or when you are having elevation, when you have the least amount of energy and time directed in a certain way, you actually begin to understand, like when you have the least amount of time or energy directed at something, and then you get a phone call and somebody saying, oh, we want you for this, or we want you to do that. And you're just like, OMG. I didn't even see this coming. I didn't even know this was a thing. And so you know it's because you are opening your heart, and the floodgates, in that energy, that positive energy and stuff is flowing both ways. That abundance is flowing both ways. It's flowing out of me and it's flowing into me, right? I think generosity is one of my, I never even realized this until now, but true and deep generosity is one of my major um, aspects of who I am. Um, you know how you think that what you do is regularly because you do it regularly, and you realize that it's not really just regular for everybody, right? And you realize the level of generosity that's in you, and it's not really something that's reciprocated in a lot of other people. And you're just like, okay, that's interesting. Like, even simple things. If you've ever gone on a trip with someone or taken a vacation with somebody else, I remember I used to always take these girls' trips and things. There were certain people on these trips who were like, oh, girl, I'll get lunch for you. And you're just like, oh, no. Then you get dinner and all. There's just like a fest of generosity going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you can't even stop it, right? And so I've even taken females on trips and things in the past. It was no big deal to me because I felt like, well, I want to go on this trip and I don't want to be alone on this trip. And so is my good friend. And if they don't have the money to do the trip, then that means I'll supply everything we need. And what was always weird to me was this happened more than once. Like how grateful and thankful they were. I'm so happy you invited me, that you thought of me and all this, and and I'm just like, this is not, people don't do this. Like, and I guess it's not as common as I thought it was. And then I as the older I've gotten, the more I've gone out places and done things, I've seen people, who's screaming all that split the check stuff before the meal comes. And I'm like, why does that make me cringe so much? So I think that in my life, I've always been ascending and I've always been excelling to some degree. And I've always had that strong desire for the next level of everything, the next level of generosity, the next level of, showing my faith, the next level of creating something big, the next level of believing in myself. It's always like, what is the next level? And so in that next level, it was never beneficial for me to have any level of selfishness or self-centeredness. Because one of the things that I notice about those personalities and attitudes is that their test is being surrounded or being connected to people who receive major abundance when they were sleeping on the person. And it always happens because people talk about it all the time. It's just like, oh, when I was like this, or when things were like this, that abundance and that generosity wasn't flowing in my direction. When they thought that there was nothing that I could bring to the table, the generosity wasn't flowing. And then it's almost calculated that this person watches the other person have major abundance. And everybody in songs and anybody who's working on something, anybody who's believing in the magic or the dream, and they're willing to put in the work at the same time, and they're willing to think the right thoughts, and they're willing to create the right environments for growth and development. You've heard these stories so many times that during your elevation or during your ascension, you were denied certain things from people. You were not given the benefit of the doubt. You were treated as if you were trying to take something from someone, or that you had no benefit because at the time, maybe your finances were low, or maybe you didn't have the right connections, or maybe you didn't have the right education or information or tools. And so it always throws me off that how people don't see these patterns and they walk right into these patterns over and over again. It's like the desire to be selfish or self-centered is much bigger than the desire to create something in community or as a team with someone. And so always being in the process of growth and ascension in those ways, I know the value of generosity, and I know the value of having more to offer the situation sometimes than what's being offered to you, and when it can be misused too. And then what you know is that when somebody's ever misused it from you, 5 years down the line, look at their life and what's going on with it, and then look at yours, right? Every person that I've ever known who was a selfish person or self-centered person, their life is very stagnant and stuck. Like, even if they gain a certain level of material, blah, 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 they don't have that abundant, fresh, and glowing energy about them. They feel tight and constricted, and like they're always going to have to put their hands on every bit of money that they're mostly making, and they become like a Scrooge McDuck. And I know these types of, I was married to one, and my mom was married to one, so it's something that has been something we attract in certain ways. But I also think it's your value of yourself. Like, you don't fully realize your personal value, and then when you get around other people who, the minute it becomes something deep, something meaningful, something real, something that really puts things on the line, then you find where, you don't have that your value is, you're not worth the investment, right? And so I even had a, previous, what is it, ex-husband, I guess we'll call it that used to, when I was going to work, I was always one of those people that worked really hard, like, and I was working my regular job, working in IT. Then I wanted to be a teacher, so I was starting to teach classes all across town, from here to there and everywhere. And I remember coming home in the evening, and he would have our daughter, which is, great. And he would be like, "Oh, my golden goose." And at the time, I thought that was cute. But it was like, as I get older, I realized, I was like, wow, you had such a low value for yourself if you were in an environment where a grown man was calling you a golden goose because you were bringing more finances to the table. And that wasn't a big deal to me. Like, I didn't care anything about money. I just was going to make it, but I really wanted to teach. And so it's just that I knew the income was needed for me to do the regular job, and the teaching had to be something on the side until it became real, until I got a master's degree for the most part. And so back in the day, you could teach computer science and IT courses with a bachelor's degree, but it quickly changed. And in some cases, you still can, but it quickly changes. It quickly has changed over the past decade. And so I didn't realize that sacrifice and that level of giving wasn't going both ways until the shoe was on the other foot. And I was, in prenatal care and had to, have the baby and had to come home. And I decided, okay, the full-time job is too much for me. I want to raise my own daughters. The level of selfishness and self-centeredness that set in was a side that I just wasn't even aware was available. And I'm like, there's something in you that's attracting these things sometimes. And so I just want to send the word that if you're a person that's experienced these type of environments, is first of all, forgive, because everybody comes from different types of backgrounds and traumas and different ideas of what it means to collaborate and cohabitate and be on a team or be in a partnership with other people. First of all, forgive. And then second of all, continue to show respect that you would have for other human beings. Because what I realize, it's very easy to lose respect for people when they don't have the same characteristics you do in a certain area, because it's a common thing for people to do. They're like, oh, they're not Christian, and oh, they don't believe in the Lord, and oh, they don't raise their own children, and it's like all these little things that we think are so important. If somebody else is not doing these things or they don't have it, you have to get in a space where you're ready to forgive people, even when you see the major flaws or errors in their ways, right? And then you also have to create boundaries and rules for yourself, right? So it's not an idea of a tit for tat. It's an idea of, I remember one of the people that I listened to on YouTube, she's always like, she had a video, Latoya Okia, that they're going to have to watch you eat at the table. And it's not even about other people, right? It's not even about other people, right? It's not even about other people. But when you intermingle and commingle your lives and get in these environments and you start doing projects with people, working on things with other people and connecting, and especially if you're a person that enjoys thoroughly real authenticity or real genuine connections, real genuine outlook or feedback and all this, and you get in these environments where you see people are holding back or people are acting like you're trying to get something from them or do something to them, you really can see where the major aspects of who you are, you can see how they shine. You can see how your generosity shines. You can see how your belief in yourself actually shines, right? Because a lot of times we don't get tested in these things and we don't get tested in these areas. So we don't really know how far we've come along with believing in ourselves. We don't really know how far we've come along with believing in our elevation. We don't really know how elevated we are. We don't really know how ascended we are or transcended we are when it comes to how we live and interact in life. And when you start getting thrown into these environments where it's a clear picture of who you are and what you value, and you start connecting with other people like that, and it's so beautiful, it almost brings you to tears. You're just like, oh wow, this is amazing. So in the places in your life where those things are falling short, you can really have you really have no choice but to offer that forgiveness, because it's like, they don't really know they don't really know they don't really know. They don't really know. They don't really know the heart of the person that they're dealing with. A lot of people just don't know. And it's not their fault they don't know. They're just covered by whatever traumatic injuries they're allowing to navigate their lives. They don't really know. And so my biggest thing is forgive, and don't be in a space where you lose respect for people in any kind of way, because everybody deserves respect, no matter where they're at on their journey and what they're doing, or where they're going, right? But this is for the mindset of how important it is to believe in your elevation and ascension, even when your environments are, even when you're interacting with people and it seems like the world isn't believing in it. The world doesn't really connect to it or cater to it. And you're just like, okay, so I really have to dig deep, and I really have to believe fully and wholeheartedly in myself, because you could really fall into these packets where you think the whole world is on your side, where you think everybody's willing to give what you're giving, or you think everybody's willing to be as generous and as open and as expansive as you are. And you realize, when it really comes down to the wire, a lot of people aren't like that. And it's okay. It's okay. Because I truly believe that when the right people are around, the right environments show up. And then when it's not the case, those environments, they slither away. I wouldn't say slither. They diminish. They go on their own. So you don't have to force anything, right? So just keep that in mind. You're elevating, you're ascending. And even when you come up in environments where contrast shows, and you're just like, why does this feel like this? Why does it feel like, just know that's a part of it. That's a part of the journey. That's a part of creating the big in your life, right? That's a part of the opportunities on one end showing up, and then on the other end being deflated. Like, dang, I didn't know that was the way anybody felt. You just don't know. And that is the world that you live in. There's always going to be some type of contrast that shows up in your environment that you have to interact with to some degree during your elevation or during your ascension. But just know that it is not a sign of how well you are doing. It is not a sign of whether or not you are falling or losing, because the true testimony to it is, how do you feel about it? How do you react to it? What do you feel about it? And if you feel about it in a place where, I don't hold anybody accountable for me, I don't hold anybody accountable for negative energy I might receive from them, or I don't hold anybody accountable for a selfishness or self-centeredness, I don't feel like that. I really just don't. It's just that you have like a no interest in it in your life, or a no tolerance for it to some degree. My light went away. And but there's still love, there's still peace, there's still harmony, and you just have to know that that is a part of it, right? That is a part of it. And so what the goal is in your life is to always be attracting people who are 100% in your corner, who are 100% believing in you, who are 100% willing to invest in you, even when you don't have a lot to invest in them in the same ways. And people that see your full value, people that see your complete and utter full value, and your presence in their life has nothing to do with their fears and their shortcomings and their insecurities. They see you, and they see your elevation, they see your success, and they see your fully becoming, and they just want to be a part of it in the most positive and beautiful and blessed way. But give people time, be patient with them, keep respect for them, and show love and appreciation in the same way that you would want someone to show you when you are having less than beautiful moments in your life, right? Anyway, I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm going to get in here and start working on a project, something I'm really excited about. And everything is all good. Keep elevating, keep ascending, and all will show up. And don't let the contrast make you feel like you've taken the wrong step or you're doing the wrong thing. It just means that you needed to see that contrast in one area to push you in another area. But don't forget about what people had to offer to you, or what they were willing to give to you when you were in the place of not at the level of where they're at in certain environments, or not bringing yourself up, and of not fully being a full asset the way you want to be. And just remember that. And it's not like remember it in vindication or revenge, but just remember it in a sense of, there's only so far I'm going to go in this connection or this relationship or this partnership or this team effort, because I know that this person doesn't have the ability to reciprocate the level of generosity or the level of selflessness that I'm willing to add to the scenario. It's not the case. And it's okay. It's okay. And you'll see this more and more. I think the more and more you do, and the more and more you're working on things, and the more and more you're climbing, I think you're going to see these things far and in between. But when they do happen, it'll be big and impactful, and it'll really jumpstart your psyche, and it'll keep you pushing to the levels, and creating a space and meditating, and not getting comfortable in the idea that anything is just going to be handed to you or going to be released to you on some deep spiritual level, like the way that you see the world. It's not going to always be that way. But in some environments, it very much so will be. In some environments, it very much so will be. You'll see where people are willing to put themselves on the line. They put their neck on the line to introduce you to their circles, to bring you to their environments, to make sure that you get into a program in a college. Like, people will do these things. And when those moments come where you are trusted with the big, or you are trusted with a major aspect of who they are, and a major aspect of their life and all that, you'll know that you have something golden there, because you're like, wow, this person trusted me to this degree that they were willing to put themselves on the line, and they were willing to say, this is an amazing opportunity, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to invest in this project or this team or this or this environment or this partnership, or whatever it is, right? And I've had people put major investments in me, and those investments have returned to them tenfold, and they can't explain it enough how they were willing to put themselves on the line. And I showed up, and I showed out, because that is the responsibility that I decided is going to be my lifestyle and the way that I live. And if you're that kind of person that decides that too, just know that your time is coming, and you will have all the benefits to reach back and open that door and say, this is not about me. This is bigger than me. And I want to create something that's bigger than me. And when you're yearning for that, it's almost nothing that you're going to do. Once you open up that door and yearn for the big in that way, it's hard to close that door. I tell you that much. So keep ascending, keep evolving, keep rising, keep elevating, and all will come. I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day.